It's the campus of IIM Indore. I mean, anyone who aspires to make it big in the corporate world, it's a dream come true for anyone to study in, the hallowed campus of IIM Indore. It's
Hi, good evening all of you. I hope I am audible across people. Okay, great. So what we'll do today is that one, I would really like to understand who all are the participants for the program, what are your aspirations from the program, what are you really looking at from the program, and then I'll try to give you a brief overview of what we would do in the program and what's my perspective to it and how I really look at involving all of you in this program. Again, the group size is fairly small and interesting, and I feel that we would be able to do some very exciting work and do something fairly interesting through projects, through exercises, through discussions that we actually have, and so on and so forth. Before I actually make a beginning on this in terms of what I am actually going to do, I would really want to understand who you are and what are your aspirations. So what I'll do is I'll put each one of you on air. I would want you to tell me something about yourself and what do you do, what's your work experience, what's your previous degree, and what are you really looking at from the program, and what are your expectations, and so on and so forth. And if at all there is some key learning that you're looking at, if you could just tell me in the beginning. Sure. So what we'll do is we'll start with Sandeep, who's from Bangalore. And Sandeep, I'm going to be putting you on air. Yes. Hi, Sandeep.
Hello, everybody. Hi. Okay, I am Sandeep. I'm working with Nokia Siemens Networks right now. Am I audible?
Yeah, sure you are.
Hello. Okay, I'm working with Nokia Siemens Networks as R&D manager. I'm working for last 10 years. I am an engineer. I did my BE in 99, and after that I joined Siemens, and throughout I had been working with one company only. So, and that's about my profile. Right now I am leading a team of around 25 engineers in the area of radio resource management. And I'm responsible to meet the targets and the appraisals and all those things. Other than the office work, I have been involved in community service, wherein I am co-founder of one NGO, Dream School Foundation, and as a part of this NGO, we work towards betterment of education in primary schools. So right now we are working with around 8 to 10 schools in Bangalore. And regarding this course, basically I want to understand strategy, because as I grow up, I think I need to understand how to give a direction to an organization, how to be more involved in the strategic decisions and things like that. So that's what I want to learn from this course. Maybe 5 years down the line, I would like to see myself heading an organization, and wherein I'm involved with almost everything, giving direction to the organization and looking after the product portfolio and things like that. So those are my aspirations.
Great, Sandeep. Nice knowing you. So what I'll do is I'll get back to you once I've actually had the introduction, and then I'll ask you a few more questions. Sure. So thanks a lot, Sandeep, for joining in the program.
Okay.
Hi, Suresh.
Hi, professor. My name is Suresh Sharma. Am I audible?
Yeah, absolutely, Suresh.
Okay. My name is Suresh Sharma. I am a master's in life sciences, basically, and I come from the pharmaceutical industry. I have 10 plus years experience in pharmaceutical industry, ranging from operations, project management, people management, business development. And market research. I was working with my first corporate experience was with GlaxoSmithKline Pharmaceuticals, and in the clinical research domain. So basically, we keep seeing and reading newspapers about the clinical research happening in India and globally. So I worked in the GlaxoSmithKline captive unit in Bangalore for 5.5 years in the clinical data management, and after which I moved to another company called Mentiles. Mentiles is the global leader in contract clinical research work outsourced to India, China, etc., and with global presence. So I worked there as project manager. I was there for close to 4 years. Towards the end of my stint in Quintiles, I was assisting the head of business planning in terms of global clinical data management outsourcing trends and locations, kind of introducing new services in this area, and market research, competitive intelligence. So that's when I kind of got to hear about this field. I was very fascinated to work with that since I have more of operational experience and the global clinical research market awareness. So then I joined. I'm currently working with Tata Consultancy Services as pre-sales and solutions architect. So at TCS I was also initially leading a team of 300 plus people as an operations director, performing the clinical research work for an outsourced activities by a European global pharma client. And after my operations stint in TCS, I moved to the pre-sales and business development team. So my current role demands me to look at what new areas the TCS can get into, what new markets that we could start offering services, and the whole life science and clinical and life sciences and healthcare vertical is pretty new in TCS. So there's lots more scope that I can add from my past experience to expand this domain in TCS. So it's more giving directions to the senior management in terms of what competitive strategies we need to devise and what new locations we need to, what markets we need to expand. So I find that this course will give me a lot of insights, both from the theoretical point of view and many lessons that I can go back and implement and get the results to share with the team. So I'm looking forward to a lot of learnings out of this course, and I think it's very much customized to what I was exactly looking for when I went through the syllabus, etc. So I'm very excited to join this course.
Oh, great to hear this, that this is something that you're really looking forward to. Now, very interestingly, I also work with a few pharmaceutical companies. In fact, I sit on the board of a company called Neurim. It's an Israeli-based pharmaceutical company, so it's something very close to what I actually do. So I'm sure we would be actually having some exciting interactions on the pharmaceutical industry. Welcome to the course, Suresh, and I'm sure we're going to have some exciting times ahead. Yeah. Murali Sundar, could you just tell me something about yourself and what are you really doing, and what are your expectations from the course?
Hello.
Hi, Murali.
Audible?
Yes, absolutely.
Hi. Yeah. Just a second. Just give me a minute. Okay. My name is Murali. I carry about 14 years of sales and marketing experience. Largely been in the FMCG industry. Started my career with ITC in the cigarettes division. Then had an opportunity to work with a company called Kevin Care, which is one of those very few companies that challenged the mighty leaders way back in the late 90s and early 2000s. Then I moved on to a company called Cholel. Some of the key brands which they market are Medimix, Ayurvedic soap, and Kitty Gurata and powders. Post that, I quit and I joined Henkel. I currently work with their professional division, which is called Schwarzkopf Professional, which is into high-end hair cosmetics. I'm there for about 1.5 years with them now. Basically, why this course? Been out of academics and learning for a long time. It's always been just markets and people and different tractions. So I just thought it's time that I do some reskilling so that it would help me in the future.
Okay.
And one key thing which I'm looking at is this industry has got a lot of set pattern the way you do business, where there is one contact point which has always been very critical, and nobody wants to make any change or do anything different. So I hope this course gives me some kind of an impetus to look at making some shifts in the way this industry operates.
Very interesting. Very interesting. So what you're saying is you're actually going to make some changes in the industry structure, and you're probably going to be one of the guys or folks who's actually going to control the industry the way it is.
True.
Okay. Perfect, Murali. Okay, we have, I'm so sorry, I might not be able to pronounce your name. It is Pratap Biraman. If I've got it wrong, I'm sorry, but then...
That's perfectly fine. Hello.
Yeah, you're absolutely audible.
Yeah, great. Yes, Pattabhiraman, but just to make it simple, I'm also Murli, probably Pattabhiraman Murli is the name.
Okay.
So I guess you can call me Pat Murli, fine. As for me, I have around close to 12-13 years of work both in India and overseas. I had started off my work with Australian National Lines, more into the shipping lines. Moved out of the shipping after a 2-year stint, and post the school was with an FMCG Dabur. Moved into the front line, moved up, and again joined the big wigs of the cabin cares of the world, handling the southern part, Tamil Nadu, and then moved out of the country. Rather tried doing things with an organization called Ola International, which are world leaders in agro commodity and supply chain managers. I was handling the international business for them in the Nigerian waters. Different experience, different experience, man management and all kind of skills have been tested out there. Great company to work for. Was back into the Indian subcontinent with currently based with a company called Lornamese Personal Care, which is a British multinational. They into fairly large categories. Again, the brands being synonymous. Yardley is the brand.
Mm-hmm.
When I say Yardley, when I say Finnish, I guess every one of us know about it. But yes, my objective or current role which I have is into managing the regional affairs, both into the general trade and the modern trade. I guess I could dwell around or rather find some new insights into how the retail business in India moves around, because a lot of restructuring happening across the retail industry, the way it is operating today. So I guess it's more from the point of view, can I set some new benchmarks, find out how better could one do a business within the set format of the general trade, set format of the modern trade. And yes, there is going to be a lot of learning, I guess, and from what I hear from various people and the curriculum, I guess it's going to be exciting. So that is in short.
Great, Pat. So nice to have you here, and I'm sure we are going to have some exciting times ahead. Thanks. Visu Kumar.
Okay. I am having around 14 years of IT experience. In that I have done project management, program management and process management. So currently I am part of Strategy offering group. So through this group we are offering ERP, BHW, EA services to our different clients in DMFS, insurance and healthcare, also the telecom industry in US. Prior to this Intel, I was working with GE and Citibank, and there also I was managing the data management and the project management and program management. So during GE, I was working with GE Energy at US. So the 2 years was taking care of the transition as well as migration and acquisition things. So apart from this professional, I was business advisory board member for few colleges in Chennai for the site projects, and as a social responsibility, I founded one trust, Vriksha, it's the name of the trust, and through that we are giving the education to the poor students, and we are sponsoring to them. Apart from that, the mentally challenged people, the homes, like we are planning to start that. Already we are supporting the projects who are running in the, through the trust. We are doing the service to them, and we identified the place in one town, Trichy, and we are soon planning to start up that one. So through this program, like what I am looking is being part of strategy offering group. Every time the customers are expecting something different from us, so we want to give the what is the differentiator we are going to create, and how we are going to satisfy the customer, and what value they are going to see from our services.
Great, great. Very interesting. So thanks a lot for being here. Now we'll be moved to Amit, who's from Delhi. Amit, could you just give me a few details and what are your expectations and so on and so forth?
Very good evening to you, Dr. Kapoor.
Hi.
Am I audible?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Not an issue.
All right. Yeah, it's really nice to be a part of such a discussion. Basically, I belong to IT background. I have more than 6 years experience into team management and team leading. And being in IT for such a long time, currently I started my career from outsourcing stuff. It's a company called Fortune Infotech, and they basically outsource the entire healthcare project from a client named Cigna. So right from the beginning of my career, I have been into dealing with foreign clients, white specifically, and currently I'm managing a team of, let's say, more than 25 guys. I'm basically taking care of account management, client coordination, agreement signing, building up new clients, identifying potential customers, and let's say training a team of people. And in my previous experience, I have basically let's say I've handled a team of more than like 140 guys. So that's it.
Okay. And why are you really looking at doing this program?
Yeah. First of all, this program is from Dr. Kapoor. So this is a very specific reason I'm looking at. So second thing
Thanks a lot for the appreciation.
Yeah. Second thing is like it's from a premium institute, and third thing is I'll find such senior guys, and certainly I'll find out some strategies which I can probably utilize in my company, and how we basically identify potential customers and the different strategies in different domains. So this is a very specific reason.
Great, Amit. Great to have you here. Thanks. Meena Shivaram from Delhi.
Hello, Professor Kapoor. Am I audible?
Yeah, absolutely, Meena.
Yeah. Hi, I am an IT professional. Having about 15 plus years of experience, and currently, of course, I am in HCL and managing part of a large customer, and managing a portfolio. I'm managing 100 plus people, where my key responsibilities are people management, delivery excellence, and account mining. Account mining is involved in pre-sales and providing, creating propositions to different customer groups and all. Prior to that, I started my career in a company called Nucleus, which is entirely a banking software company, where I was involved in re-engineering the current applications, which is in Prime, which is a legacy database to the new technologies, where we completely re-engineered the retail banking applications. And after that, after spending 5 years, I moved on to Toro Systems, where I spent about close to 10 to 11 years, where totally I was involved in the project management, delivery management, quality management, and processes, where I've been involved in the processes of CMMI, quality, and CMMI and ISO 9000 processes. And of course, and then from this project management, I moved on to a more of a strategic role in my current organization, where I give directions to a couple of hundred people, where not only how to grow the business, and also managing the people, their aspirations, their performances, and also operational SLAs and metrics, where the P&Ls and all. So my key expectation from this program is that yes, I am on a threshold of from a middle to senior management, and I want to understand more about what strategy is all about, how to be a differentiator, how to be a value player to not only in an organization but also to the customer where I am servicing, and considering the global turmoil and recession, how to understand this and then be a key player and then being a value player. That's
Great.
that is my key expectation. And this course is really, when I looked into that, I was really excited about the topics and all that we'll be covering.
Okay, huge expectations. I hope
so.
I hope we are able to do some justice to this. I'm sure it's going to be very exciting. We are going to have some very exciting case studies that are going to be there. We are actually going to have a very hands-on approach. So I'm sure we would have a great learning experience together. Thanks, Meena. Anup. Hi, Anup.
Hi, good evening, Dr. Kapoor, and good evening to all my peers.
Hi.
I come from a legal background. I'm a lawyer, a graduate in law started my career in a law firm for
excuse me, Anup, I just lost you. I will. Could you just repeat? Yeah.
Yeah, can you hear me? So let me start over.
Sure.
I was telling you that I come from a legal background. I am a graduate in law, and initially I specialized in intellectual property work as well, like graduate diploma in patent law. I was associated with a law firm initially for about 3 years' time. Then I moved to JP Morgan in their back office that was set up in Mumbai, and then moved to Bangalore. I was part of a pilot process there. And that's when my first exposure to business migration activities happened, and that kind of gave me the confidence to join hands with a few friends and start a legal services firm. Legal outsourcing industry, the sunshine industry now was an exciting endeavor for me. So some of us got together and we started a legal services company that I was associated for about a year and 2 months. Once the company was set up, I moved out and moved into my present role with Ameriprise Financial. That's a financial services company, was with 5 but spun off and is now an independent. At Ameriprise, I work in the capacity of manager legal and compliance, where I manage about 25 people on various legal and part of my work is to identify certain strategy transformation and re-engineering activities, take care of business migration, take care of identifying the right people to do the work that needs to be done, training them, streamlining the process. At times also identifying the new trends and staying abreast with what's happening in the industry as such, what the competition is doing, and how best to enhance efficiencies in my individual capacity. I draft and negotiate contracts with the vendors of Ameriprise. So that's what I do at Ameriprise. The reason why I was very keen on being a part of this particular was actually the two reasons. One is my past experience, and two is the relevance it has to my present role. In the past, when I was part of the legal services company, we started off well, but after about a year of operations, we realized that there was intense pressure from the competition who were better prepared in many aspects. So that got me thinking, and I'm still wondering why we weren't able to be in the top 3 or top 5 legal services organizations. So one of the reasons I'm here is to kind of, while I'm introspecting, also learn new concepts that I can apply and make the learning experience I've had in the past more relevant to my present role. So coming on to my present role, like I said, I handle a lot of business strategy, take certain decisions. So it could be very important for me to know certain concepts that I can apply and make the most of this course by experimenting in my present role, taking those experiences back to the class, sharing it with all of you, and then learning from that experience.
Great.
That's why I'm here.
Great, Anup. So thanks for being here. Anupama, could we have some views from you and a small introduction from your side?
And everybody on air. Am I audible?
Yeah. Yes, Anupama. Absolutely.
Yes. Am I audible?
Yes, Anupama.
Myself, I've done my engineering and MBA, and years of experience. And initially, my experience was in the area of development, software development, and then I switched over to training, basically. So my current role, that is where I'm working, that is Newgen Software Technologies. I've been here in this company for the last 5 years. And this particular company, I'm heading the training division of the company. And I'm responsible for 1,000 people in the company for their training. So hence, I felt that it's time again to learn back into the curriculum, get more input from yourself and people over here. That's what I'm looking at.
Okay, very interesting. So, how do you think training and strategy are going to be going together? That's a very interesting profile that you have.
Since I am heading the department and I'm responsible for what do we do, how do we go ahead as far as the training department goes. In fact, when I joined this company, there was no training over here. So I started the training division itself and I created processes. So that part I've already done. So now moving ahead, there are lots of places where I'm sure I need inputs more in my learning so that I can move ahead in the right direction as far as training department is concerned in Newgen.
Great, Anupama. Great. Nice talking to you. Okay, we have Rajiv from Gurgaon. So, Rajiv.
Yeah. Hi, am I audible?
Yes, absolutely, Rajiv.
Very new to this system. Okay. Hi, everybody. I'm Rajiv Bajaj from Gurgaon. I work in a manufacturing company called Rico Auto Industries. We make auto components and supply them both here in the Gurgaon ecosystem of Maruti, Hero, Honda, and as well as export them to both Europe and North America. I'm a chartered accountant, and I've had a extensive experience both consulting and now running the entire operations of this company. Purpose of looking at this course was to kind of formally learn about strategy, even though one has been facing it in one's own business and while analyzing a lot of acquisitions. So, here when I looked at the list of looking at some good B2C type of cases, etc., I have a lot of OEM and B2B type of business experience. So I thought formally debating strategy, the case study method was another attraction. Your name, Professor, has come up in many circles, so I thought this would be a chance to learn from you. Of course, wish this was sitting in a classroom, but and of course Sunday was also an added advantage that we could do this, continuing whatever we are doing. In fact, I just got late coming because wife said Sunday evening is a bit of a stretch. So, but formally learning and learning from you and the classmates about strategy.
Great, Rajiv. I hope you survive this turmoil of 3 months and you don't get divorced at the end of the day. Welcome to the course. Thank you.
Thank you.
Siddharth. Again, we have Siddharth from Gurgaon.
Yes, sir. Audible?
Yes, Siddharth, absolutely.
Yeah. Sir, I am working with Maruti Suzuki India Limited, and I have been in production division since January 99. And recently I have done my PM executive course from IMT Ghaziabad. But meanwhile, while doing my course, after completion of my course and returning back to perform my duties and to have a continuation as well as to have the practical feel whatever the business tactics and the strategy both comes into the picture. So I've opted for this program, advanced program in competitive strategy. And I'm looking forward for right now because all the program, all the basic ingredients which goes on in the manufacturing industry doesn't involve mainly the financial aspect of that part. And the people are most oftenly have gut feeling that whether this process has to be incorporated or not or something like that. They still lack being a Maruti which has 25 years of work doesn't have an exposure of real manufacturing. While the companies like NTPC who is a power supplier generating company still feels better and thinks before moving on logically to the system. While in the Maruti, we keep on generating new innovations day in, day out, being indulging in the format, looking forward for so many things. But while in the government organizations, it is a predefined, pre-planned, sustainable growth which is being led into the environment. While in the private sector, we are moving on only for the business where we are going to convert something X rupees into a X plus delta X. So this was just an observation which I have noted it up till now, and I want from this how the strategy should be framed that the business, along with the business, we have a sustainable growth. That each and everybody must be given a chance and have full freedom to do the work, as well as full guidelines before going to perform, rather than the individual who is a MD of a company of having something 4 or 5 directors below him, further followed by executive directors and something. They are not very clear about the subject, basically.
Okay. That's a fairly critical.
If they are become very, very clear, then what I am doing, they have never poked in where are you are right now and how it can be further improved upon. So those things are the very where the country is lacking right now in the private sector mainly. Okay. While in the public sector, each and everybody given an equal chance and something opportunity seizes opens for each and everybody. At least everybody is free to say and have a seal on it, which is the bigger miss in this company like a Maruti Suzuki, I can say.
Okay, like that's a very critical view, Siddharth. I'm sure we are going to have some exciting times ahead discussing some ideas from Maruti and some other auto companies and around. And I'm sure we have Rajiv here, who's from the auto, if I'm not wrong, he's from RICO, so he's actually part of that ecosystem. So I'm sure we're going to have two different perspectives
here. So it is basically like we are living in a drawing room rather than moving on to the bedroom. We never perform that much basic kitchen work or something like that. We moved on to show something like a turbine hall where we are everything is good and we are moving forward, marching ahead. So how that basic homework part will improve and how we comes up in the country in a big way, that our real core business is still, otherwise we are moving for the outsourcing, it become a very, and the crowdsourcing has been further been improvised. The people are further aggravating that the private moving on to the further sub-private organizations where we are partnering it or either partnering or moving on to the outsourcing.
Sure. So we'll talk more about it as we actually move ahead in the course. Thanks, Siddharth. Thanks for joining in.
Okay, sir. Yeah. Thanks.
We have Purna from Hyderabad. So, Purna.
Hi, this is Purna. Can you listen?
Yes, I can hear you, Purna. Please.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. This is Purna from. I'm working in Satyam Computers. I've done my BE in mechanical engineering. I have 2 years experience in Satyam Computers in design domain. Actually, we used to design locomotive components in Satyam. You know the situation of Satyam, which is in restructuring mode, right? I want to grab an opportunity in that restructuring mode, and I want to learn some strategies and help the company in rebuilding the company and to grab the clients and to get back. That's my aim, and I want to learn some of the competitive strategies from you guys and all my peers who are having a lot of experience in several fields.
So what's your total experience, Purna?
That's my profile. I have only 2 years experience.
Okay, very interesting, very interesting. So we have a so we have a very interesting person here who's actually going to give a very fresh perspective to things. Great, Poona, great to have you here. Siddharth, we have Siddharth from Lucknow. Hi, Siddharth.
Good evening, everyone. As far as my education goes, I'm basically a bachelor's, I hold a bachelor's degree in computer applications, and then I had a very short stint at Harvard Business School for an executive program. I'm part of a private school. The school was started by my family, actually founded by my father 30 years ago. And incidentally, this is the first school in India to get ISO 9000, and more recently, Quality Council of India has come up with a standard for school governance, which our school is again the first one to get in India. So banking on those credentials as well as our accumulated know-how, we want to go further and start up schools, attracting private equity and investors. And right now, in the school right now, I'm looking after all the operations as well as HR development, the growth of the school, and very critically handling branding issues and competition. And so taking my current context as well as what we want to do is start schools, competition, analyzing competition is a very, very important thing for me. And my current position, like my position right now in future, it's like kind of fortunate as is unfortunate. Fortunate as in because being part of the top management, I can take decisions, which is a lot of fun. Actually, you analyze the competition, take decisions, and you can see things start panning out in front of you. But unfortunately, in the sense that it's tough and a lot of responsibility, which is why I'm here to just learn more about competitive strategy and take better decisions now and in the future.
Okay, just a very quick question. Well, what program have you done from the Harvard Business School? You said you've done some kind of
program on. Yeah, it was a very short program, just a week-long program on building new ventures. I did it in 2006, and Professor Linda Applegate was the chairperson.
Okay.
So that was in 2006, yeah. Which is actually, that was a program which kicked off the whole idea of starting more schools and going a little more of a corporate way rather than a charitable way, which what it has been since now.
So what's the name of your school in Lucknow?
Come again?
What's the name of your school?
The name of the school is the Model School in Lucknow. That's in Aligarh.
Oh yes, I know about it. I've lived in Lucknow for 4 years, so I know about that school.
Okay, that's wonderful. All right.
Yes, great. So great to have all of you here. I'm sure we are going to have some very exciting time ahead. I believe I've talked to all of you who are on air today and who are participating in the program. Before we move ahead and before I start talking about the course, I thought I'll just give you a very quick introduction of mine. I believe NIIT must have actually given you a few things. I actually teach a course. I'm basically a MBA, then I actually did my PhD in industrial economics, and after that I started my career with IIM Lucknow. So that is how I was in Lucknow actually. So I was in Lucknow for about a little over 3.5 years. And then I moved to MDI. I've been with MDI ever since, and I'm actually an affiliate faculty for a course called MOC, Microeconomics of Competitiveness, with the Harvard Business School. In fact, I actually teach a course on competitive strategy and competition and strategy with the guru of strategy, and that guy's name is Mike Porter. And so these are a few things that I do in terms of teaching. I consult a lot of companies across the board. I consult a few governments. I actually work as the economic advisor to the government of Kenya. Then I actually work with the government of Australia, and so on and so forth. So I have an experience which is from firm level strategy to country level strategy, and I try to actually help companies, and I try to actually help countries to be a little more productive, be a little more strategic, and build future strategies for them, and increase their productivity and increase their performance levels. So that's what I actually do. But then moving very, very quickly ahead on the course, a few set of things that I should actually set right before we actually start the course. There would be a couple of rules of the game that I would want you to understand, and I would really want you to actually follow those rules of the game since we are doing this program. I would want that there are a lot of cases that are going to be given to you. In fact, the material should be sent across to you in the next 1 or 2 days. Like today was an introductory class, an introductory session. So we are not really going to do any case today, but then beginning the next session, that is next Sunday, we are typically going to have close to about 2 cases every day, and that would actually make the course very, very intense. But my requirement from you folks would be that you actually read those cases and come. In fact, the success of the program and the learning from the program is going to be hugely dependent on how much you've actually read. Typically, I must tell you, for having a great, successful discussion, I would want you to spend at least a couple of hours on each case. So if you've really made a commitment of 3 hours on a Sunday, I would want that you should actually make a commitment of another 4 to 6 hours on the weekdays itself. And that's just for the reading parts of it. And if we are actually going to have a project in between, wherein I would want you to actually pick up a company of your choice, or I would want you to do a project on your company itself, and I would actually handhold that project with you. And that would be a separate time, and I would want you to actually spend a lot of time on that. I think that should take about 15 to 20 hours a week on that, if you really want to do something great. Because I think the basic idea is that this is a course which is going to be a very interesting course wherein we learn together. We grow together, and we should be in a position to share a lot of views from the industry, from various sets of things that we do. So I would want you to read. I would want you to actually bring your experience from the project that you do. I would want to bring your experience from the corporations that you're actually working for. So we would actually bring all this together under certain sets of frameworks, and we would and to learn together. So these are a few things that I want you to do, and of course I would want you to be there on time. Actually, once the case discussion starts, I would think that if you actually come in between, then the level of excitement could be a little lower, and you might not be able to catch up. So I would want you to actually be there on time for the sessions. But very quickly, if you really look at the course structure, you must have seen the course structure already, and I did a small 10-minute video on this, like what this course is going to be all about. I think I would quickly like to share that there are about 4 things that I would want to, or 4 pastures that we are really trying to cover in this course. And those 4 pastures are that we are going to talk about the context for strategy, we are going to talk about customers, and we are going to learn about customers. We are really going to talk about competition. And of course, we are going to talk about the company. So what's going to happen is there are 4C model that we are actually going to do, and there are 4 C's which become very, very important, and that's what we are really going to cover here. So out of them, 3 C's are something called customer, competition, and context, which is external to the firm. And we would spend a lot of time understanding and trying to understand how competition has to be looked at, how things are changing, and we are actually going to use very interesting models like 5 forces, the value chain, and so on and so forth. And then, of course, we have something like understanding the company, from where we would actually look at ideas like competitive advantage, core competency, and so on and so forth. Of course, we would actually look at what I call a corporate strategy as well. We would talk about internationalization. We will talk about mergers and acquisitions and things. So I'm sure like we would be covering a lot of ground during this program. And I would really want you to actually bring your ideas, bring the data from your organizations, and we should actually be in a position to really go together on that. I would want that if you have any queries or anything of that sort, you could always give me a call, or you could always shoot off a mail to me. I would generally respond to mails in about less than 24 hours. In fact, if I'm traveling, then that's when I actually take it to 24 hours. But otherwise, I should be in a position to get back to you very, very quickly. So you could always email across to me. My email is very, very simple. It's amit@amitkapoor.com. And you could always, give me a call on my cell. And then we could actually talk about issues if you have in the course, or if you really want to, make some offline discussions. So these are 2 methods in which we could actually, keep on interacting. So these are a few things on the course that I really wanted to share. So what we'll do right now is that we'll have, for today, I think the agenda is going to be very simple. I'm just going to give you a brief overview of what I believe strategy is, and I'll set the ball rolling there. And then from next time onwards, we'll have cases and so on and so forth. What we'll do here now is that we'll have a quick 5-minute break, and then we'll come up with a fresh perspective, and we'll try to start with the course. Yeah? Yeah. So great. So we'll just start the program right now, and I hope all of you are here. So I have a very interesting first question from all of you. What do you think is strategy? What is strategy? And I need views from all of you on this. What do you think is strategy? In fact, there are two ways that we could actually look at this answer. One would be that I could actually cold call, or I would actually look at hand raises here. So if some of you would like to say something on this, like what do you think is strategy all about? Like this is, if you really look at strategy, it is one of the most misused words in the world of business. And everybody would say strategy as a word at the drop of a hat. But then this is where we want to understand like what strategy is all about, what it means, what are the, what it really means for us, and what is the impact for companies, and so on and so forth. So we have Purna here. Purna. What do you think is a strategy from your point of view? Purna, I couldn't hear you. Could you just be a little, could you just repeat?
We have to follow to improve a business or something like that.
Okay, it's a process to improve business. Improve business in what way?
What way? To grab a client like that.
To grab a client. Is it just limited to this, or there is something else to strategy as well?
To improve the area spectrum of business.
Improve the spectrum of business. Like, can you just explain? You've used a word called spectrum here. What do you mean by spectrum?
Like scope of that. We can move on to different areas like that.
So you want to say that improve the scope of business.
Yeah.
So you want to say it should be diversification and so on and so forth?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so you say diversification, etc. Okay, let's see, like Vishu, what do you think is strategy all about?
Unique way of doing things. Anything, like if you're doing it, should be in a unique way you have to do.
Okay, so it's a unique way of doing things. Everything else is not a strategy.
No, to do that we need to do so many things.
Okay.
So to finding that, it's a strategy.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I'll get back to you. So we have some other people around in terms of what do you think is strategy? Any one of you? I need very quick responses on this. Yes, Sandeep. Okay, just a quick request. If you actually are raising the hand, just raise it once, or else the system actually just malfunctions in some way or the other. So the whole thing drops. So a very quick set of responses here. What do you think is strategy? Oh, okay. What do you think, Sandeep? Sandeep from Bangalore.
You chart out a way to achieve some objectives, and which is different from others, and which helps you achieving your goals. It could be value creation for the customer in the business sense. It could be you have some objective for your life and you chart out a path how you will achieve that. So you have a strategy for that.
Okay. So it's goals, objectives, value creation. But if I really dig deeper into this, you've actually set goals. Like how do you set goals here? Like
you decide what you want to achieve, and then you analyze what are the things which can have a positive impact on the way you want to achieve that, and what are the things which can have a negative impact on those, and then you consider all those things and create a process or something like that to go in that direction.
Okay, very interesting.
And in case
yeah, in case
you have competition, then you also have to think about how the competitors will respond to your strategy, and you have to consider those things also. So you also have to be different from others to get the maximum benefit and to reach the objectives faster than others.
So would you like to say that strategy is about preempting your competition?
That is one part of it.
Okay.
In case you don't have any competition, then you don't need to preempt a competition. So in case you, for example, in a market which already has competition, you will behave in a different way than a market which does not have competition. So strategy will be very different for both the markets. So in case you have you know that what goal you are trying for, somebody else is also trying for the same thing, then you also have to see how you can be different and preempt the competition. But in case you know that there will be nobody else, there are some factors which favor you, so that nobody else is trying for that goal, then you have to see how will you maximize the benefits and how do you reach the objective fast.
Okay, great, beautiful. This is something very interesting. So what you're saying is, strategy is about being unique, trying to be a little different from competition.
Yeah.
Great. So I'll actually get back to you on this. Suresh, very quickly, what do you think is strategy? Okay. So we have Anup. Anup, I would really like to understand from you. What do you think is strategy?
Yeah, just to add on to what some of my peers already have said, and in my limited understanding, strategy for me is about having a plan and a contingency plan, which is a well thought of, a well reasoned out plan to tackle a particular situation and to beat your competition. Like I said, it involves probably inputs regarding what the innovative idea is, what you're trying to achieve. It could involve some amount of market research just to understand what the trend is and how you can beat your competition. And it could involve some innovative or new methodologies.
Okay, that is something very interesting. So it's about in being innovative. Great. So in fact, I would like to tell you what strategy is from some very interesting perspective. I'm not able to use my slides here. Yes. Okay. So in fact, like if you really look at it, strategy is thought of very uniquely by what do you call managers. In fact, there are two ways in which they really talk about strategy. One is about competing to be the best, and the other one is competing to be unique. In fact, if you really look at it, like if what do you mean by competing to be the best? This is a typical thing that a lot of companies talk about, like benchmarking and so on and so forth. It's about talking about the productivity frontier. It's about like trying to achieve the best possible outcome in terms of returns on investment. But then if you've actually reached certain level of productivity frontier, then you would actually go for issues like Kaizen and so on and so forth. But do you think this is strategy? Or this is about just improving your actual performance? Or are you just trying to play a game of one-upmanship? In fact, this, from my fundamental viewpoint, this is not about strategy. This is one of the conditions for being successful as a company. But then this is not about strategy. Strategy is way beyond this. It's not about competing to be the best. It's not about being benchmarked. It's not about like being the best in class. It's about like being the best in class plus something else. Because that plus something else in strategy is about that nobody else is able to copy you. strategy is about having a unique position somewhere. It's about being so unique that it becomes absolutely very difficult for people or very difficult for competition to actually copy you. So if you really look at it, so strategy is about being unique. Of course, plus being best in class, yes, but then it has to be about being unique. But now the question is, how do we actually become unique over a period of time? In fact, if you really look at this fundamental viewpoint, when you are talking about being unique, this is actually very closely related to the idea of innovation. And how is it related to the idea of innovation per se? When I actually talk about innovation here, in fact, if you really look at innovation as something which gives you uniqueness in terms of products or in terms of services or in terms of business models, and that is where wealth creation actually happens. In fact, very, very clearly, if you really look at things, at any given point in time in the history of business, companies which have actually made money are the set of companies who have actually punctuated their growth with unique sets of solutions that they've actually given to companies or people or whatever. So if you really look at wealth creation in the last 300 years, you've actually had the industrial revolution, you've actually had the steam engine revolution, you've had the mass production era, you've actually had computers, you've had internet, now you're really talking about nanotechnology and so on and so forth. But then these are the paradigms which actually have given huge levels of wealth to people. And there are hugely interesting sets of what you call business models that have actually got created. Within the internet domain itself, if you really look at how wealth has actually got created, it started with internet in 1991. You had simply, or 1992, when you actually talked about internet websites. But then after that, there was something called as email. That was the second phase of wealth creation. And then you actually moved on to things like messenger services and so on and so forth. But today, if you really look at it, I think the wealth creation on the internet has actually happening because of social media. That is what we call as things like Facebook or Orkut and so on and so forth. So what is happening is like, it does not mean that the internet was one thing and there are not going to be other things that are going to be happening in between. There are going to be other sets of things that happen within the internet, advent of internet itself. But the question is, how do we actually use or how do we actually create unique sets of solutions for people around us? And can we actually move from being a very simple, mundane website to moving on to something which was very, very interesting over a period of time, like social media, like Facebook? In fact, if you really look at the number of people who are on the Facebook today, it's absolutely amazing. In fact, Facebook and Orkut were one of the fastest growing websites in the world. In fact, when you talk about this uniqueness, this has something very, very powerful, because innovation has the power to actually either kill industries or create newer sets of industries. The existing set of industries could actually go for a toss. In fact, if you really look at the innovation that has actually happened in the world of telecom, there's something very interesting there itself, because in terms of telecom, what happened is like there is a new set of service that happened in the last 2 or 3 years. One was Skype. In fact, each one of us knows Skype, and I think most of us here in this course would actually be using Skype. But it has fundamentally altered the way that we've been talking to people. Beyond Skype, there is a new thing that has happened called Magic Jack, and Magic Jack is again a very powerful thing, which has probably created huge level of problems for the service like Skype itself. So what you're saying is there are huge levels of punctuations that happen. There is huge level of uniqueness that is actually happening. Of course, that uniqueness could either be through technology, or it could be what do you call as it could be something like a different kind of value proposition that I give to my customer. It could be a unique way of really solving problems for my customers. So, in fact, I think this is where something very important needs to be actually looked at. When we talk about strategy and when we talk about being unique, it does not mean that it is always going to be about technology. It is going to be about like how do we actually give different and better solutions to my customers itself. It could be a little bit of a service orientation itself. In fact, when I talk about the service orientation here, how do you think car industry is going to change in the next 20 years? There are companies like Ford and Toyota who are already thinking about redefining themselves as car companies. Do you think they're going to be car companies in 20 years? Or when I talk about a company like IBM, IBM was a PC manufacturer at one time, or a mainframe manufacturer, but then it has really redefined itself as a business in the last 10 years. From being a mainframe, from being a PC manufacturer, to a company which is not about manufacturing PCs. It's a company which is talking about services somewhere. So how do you think this kind of a progression is actually going to happen? How industries are actually going to change? I think companies which are able to understand this also are companies which are really going to be successful in the future. So what we're saying is strategy is not only about understanding what are the unique positions that I can actually have. It is about understanding how things could actually change in the future. Can we actually look at the punctuations that are going to happen there, like how customers are actually going to change? Because what customer requires today is going to be hugely different from what he requires tomorrow. In fact, like if you really look at it, strategy, there are two very interesting things on strategy. And I think a lot of people go horribly wrong on this. And that is like when you talk about strategy itself, it's about perspectives. It's about assumptions. In fact, there are two very important things in business that we need to understand. And that is about assumptions and perspectives in business. In fact, I think your strategy is as good as the assumptions that you actually have. And the second thing is, it's as good as the perspectives that you actually hold for yourself. Because I think there is a particular way of looking at things, and there are a certain set of assumptions that we actually make when we are actually making a strategy. Because if your assumptions are wrong, your strategy is going to actually go higher. In fact, if you really look at this assumption bit, this is about the way we actually look at things around us. So if I ask you, what do you think is going to be India in the next 20 years? What's your idea on this? In fact, before I actually look at this assumptions and perspectives, I had raised the question, how do you think car industry is actually going to change in the next 20 years? Do you think there is really going to be a redefinition there? Or car industry is just going to be a car industry and it's going to be a metal box with 4 tires and everything that's going to actually run on the road? Any ideas on this? How do you think car industry is actually going to change? Or what I mean to say here is, how do you think automobile industry is going to change? Do you think Ford is going to be, Ford the way it is today, or is it actually going to be something else? Or is it really going to fundamentally redefine its business itself? Do you think, can we actually have a vision of looking or peeping into the future in terms of, like, say, next 20 years and 30 years, and saying, like, this is how industry structures are going to change, or this is how technology is going to fundamentally alter the way business is actually going to happen? What do you think is going to happen to the car industry? Any one of you, make a wild guess here. I think this is something which is very important for us to really understand. How do you think car industry is going to change in the future? Any one of you, please. Yes, Suresh.
This is just my assumption of the assumption how car industry is going to change. Basically, I mean, I read that somewhere that there would be more like a saturation to whatever the design or the technology that any car company can offer. So it would more or less be more on, everyone would like to adopt the same, more or less the same technology in terms of what fuel to use, etc., because of the challenging environmental situations. So there would be one saturation in that, and the next it would be like almost all the companies would like to see what other value-add services they can give. For example, say Ford can look at, or any company can look at, in the central business district in terms of creating a parking slot for only Ford car users. So differentiators like this as to how the customers can will get more value add in buying their cars, so something like that. So there would be more of such differentiators in terms of the services or the value add a buyer would have if they go for that car. Because my personal feeling is that whatever the innovations or technologies would be in terms of the technology, etc., there would be more or less a saturation in that. That's my viewpoint.
Great, Suresh. Like, in fact, if you really look at it, you've actually made two very important points here. One is that it's going to get more and more difficult to differentiate a product. The product is just going to be the same. Even if it is, say, somebody like Toyota, or it's going to be like Suzuki, or it's going to be, say, Honda, they're all going to make similar sets of cars. So the differentiation has to happen somewhere else. And this is where these companies will have to redefine themselves, because either they would actually have huge levels of strategy convergence, that they'll be doing the same sets of things, and if that strategy convergence happens, then what's going to happen is that all these companies are going to be competing on price. But then if they really want to increase the value, and if they really want to keep on making profits, how do they do that? That is where service orientation would actually have to be brought in. But then I would rather think a little differently from you in terms of like parking slots. I would rather say there's a very interesting thing that's already happening. And it's called, there is a smart project that's actually happening in the United States. They're actually talking about integrated urban transportation solutions. And Ford and Toyota are actually funding that whole paradigm. What they're saying is that in the next 15 years or 20 years, Ford is actually going to move away from being a car company to being an integrated urban transportation or solution company. There's something very interesting that's happening in the environment, and that is that you have something like the internet that's going to be creating huge levels of change in terms of the way we travel. Well, what's going to happen is that you have all mobile sets that we actually have today are 3G enabled. It's like GPS enabled sets. And what's going to happen is I know where I'm actually standing. So I would get connected to the network and somebody would actually tell me, okay, if I need something like I want to travel from a location in Delhi from say Connaught Place to Chandni Chowk. I know like there are going to be 3 different ways in which I could actually travel. There is going to be a metro, there's going to be a bus, there is going to be an auto, and there's going to be a taxi. I could actually get the data in terms of like how fast it could actually come to me, or how cheap is it going to be traveling by either modes. But then suddenly a new set of business model would actually get created. In fact, when you talk about strategy, strategy is going to be about looking at the future, and they're really trying to say that how new business models can actually get created. I think when a lot of people say that strategy is not about peeping into the future or strategy is about like doing things today, no, as doing things today is about tactics. But when you are talking about strategy, strategy is more about looking at the future itself. Can we actually be a little more futurist? Can we actually be talking about a thing like, what is going to be my opportunity share index? Can I actually create new sets of paradigms somewhere? That is what strategy is going to be all about. Like we are going to be the set of people who define the next sets of what I call wealth creation paradigms. That's what strategy is going to be all about. Very quickly, if you really look at the second thing that I was really talking about, assumptions and perspectives, I must ask you a question. How many of you think India is not going to be successful as a country? Or India is actually going to face problems in the next 20 years. And India could actually face huge sets of problems in the future. Anybody? Okay. I think a lot of you would feel a little discomforted with the idea if we talk about India maybe. But then I should actually ask you a very simple question. How many of you think that mall revolution is actually going to be successful? The premium mall revolution is going to be successful. Yes, Murali.
The premium mall revolution, I don't think it's going to be India will continue to be a split country with 35% urban and about 65% rural. You will have different formats of malls evolving rather than the premium malls. It's not going to be one format that's going to be a successful one, but I think India will see multiple formats to how a rural-based market with agricultural income will be, a rural market with large industrial belts will have a different type of a thing, city with a lot of education institutions and a place like Chandigarh would have a different mall to a place like Chennai would have a different mall. So it's not premium. I think mall as a culture would kind of evolve, but the friendly neighborhood will continue to exist.
Okay, so what you're saying is that friendly neighborhood, mom and pop stores, they are actually going to be...
They would exist.
Okay, excuse me, there's a huge echo in the thing. Okay, so if you really look at the idea of mall revolution, there's something very interesting here. There are going to be huge level of assumptions in terms of statements that we are actually making. One is like how urbanization is actually going to happen, how people are really going to be living in the cities and within the rural setup. Yes, when you say 35% of India is actually going to be in urban regions, I think I'll probably disagree with you on that because the figures are going to be projected lower by the United Nations here. We are not really going to expect more than about 32% of India actually living in cities in the next 20 to 30 years. That's going to be one very important thing that we need to look at. But then, of course, like, if you really look at the way the mall revolution actually started happening in this country, there was something like DLF that said, okay, now we are actually going to create malls in Gurgaon and all of them are not really doing well. And this takes us to a very interesting situation here. When you talk about creating malls, like what is it about creating? Is it about just creating a mall and just putting it there, or is it going to be about creating business models for people who are going to be opening their stores there? I think this is where perspectives are going to be very, very important. In fact, I think this is where like a lot of us have to see and understand that when we talk about business, business is also not only about like creating something. It's about like how do we actually be in it together. If we are actually collaborating, if there is a franchising thing, how is it that we are actually going to make a lot of money together? It's about success together. So coming to the small revolution itself, I think when you talk about the mall revolution, I think as a premium segment, there are going to be huge sets of issues in terms of like whether India could actually sustain that. Because one, like what are the disposable incomes of people in cities and so on and so forth, whether they're going to be willing to spend so much on stores like say Marks and Spencer's and so on and so forth. Or else there could be issue in terms of like what's the aggregated income that people have. But then if you really look at this whole huge issue here, what do we mean? Like, is majority of India rich, or is majority of India just living on something like subsistence? This is where we have to start looking at statistics as well. In fact, when we talk about the retail revolution and when we talk about the mall revolution and so on and so forth, like there were a lot of wrong assumptions that were actually happening when premium malls actually started coming up. And that was that all of India is actually going to be spending huge sets of money. They're actually going to go to a mall and they're going to spend money on clothes, they're going to spend money on XYZ. But then if you really look at these malls, there's just about two things work there. One is entertainment and the other one is food. Why are other things not really working? The other things are not working because we do not really know what are the right price points. We need to actually define these right price points. In fact, if you really look at stores like Arrow, or what do we call as the Lal Bhais and everything, like they've actually got it horribly wrong. They've actually not been able to create such huge levels of impacts with their products and with a brand called Arrow. They've actually failed, and their failure was happening for two simple reasons. Like one, they did not understand what's the right price point. They did not understand how to actually work with other sets of businesses, like that is with the franchisee guys. So when we actually talk about it, like because what was happening here is like all of us were really looking at wrong sets of assumptions somewhere. And those wrong sets of assumptions were like, okay, India is going to grow at an exorbitant pace. Everybody is actually going to have huge sets of money to dispose of. In fact, if you really look at this, if you really look at the set of statistics for India, there's something very interesting for us to note. Like what's the disposable income of people across the board? There is something called as the Angel's coefficient, and each one of us, like probably people in the retailing industry, really look at it. What's the kind of percentage of money that is actually left with us after food and shelter? So if you really look at the United States versus India, the United States actually functions in a very, very different way, and the Indian context is hugely different. In fact, if you really look at people living in the Indian cities and whatever, I think most of the time 50 to 60% of my money, in fact probably higher, is actually going to go in terms of really taking care of my food and shelter. So if that's going to happen, then of course there are going to be saving rates which are actually going to be kicking in and so on and so forth. My disposable incomes are very low. So like, where does that mall revolution go? And of course, when you talk about retailing as a success, like what kind of retailing would be as a success? Is it going to be food retailing that's going to be successful? Or is it just going to be departmental store retailing that we really talk about it? Departmental store retailing, yes. But then if you really talk about premium stores, no, because people in India do not really have disposable incomes. So there's another thing that we really need to look at here. What is India all about actually? In fact, a lot of times, a lot of companies across the board, I've been talking to a lot of companies and I think they go wrong on India in one simple way. They say like, okay, we are going to be coming to India and we are actually going to be milking India to the hilt and we are actually going to make millions of rupees in the first year itself and then that's how it is. No, there is issue to this. Because if you really look at India or understanding India, India is not something which is going to happen in a day. India is something which is going to take 3 years, 4 years for you to even understand. And after that happens, then you actually get into a system of really creating a product or really taking your services there and so on and so forth. If you really look at the premium market in India, that's there. But then if you really want to actually make a contribution, it's actually going to be bottom of the pyramid market. When you talk about Hindustan Levers or like what you call as Hindustan Unilever today, or if you talk about Procter & Gamble of the world, what have they actually done? They've actually looked at very interesting price points. They actually created sachet markets, and that is what made them successful. In fact, there are a huge number of business models which have actually been successful in India, which were talking about bottom of the pyramid market. But then all of us do not really look at it. We actually ignore it, thinking that, okay, we need to actually go at the premium segment itself. Why should we do that? That's a wrong assumption somewhere. We need to actually say, okay, there is a huge opportunity that exists at that level itself. When you talk about India, like 26% of India lives at less than $1 a day on purchasing power parity. That means we are living at 26% of India lives at about 5.5 rupees a day on actual value. 44% of India lives at about 11 rupees a day. And then about 70% of India lives at less than something called as $5, $5 a day. So then that's the kind of money that we are really talking about. So suddenly you see, like, India is not about just one big end. There is a huge bottom of the pyramid opportunity that actually exists there. And we need to actually start looking at things from that perspective. And then if you suddenly say that we are actually going to, I think a lot of people go wrong on this again. They're thinking that we are going to brush across one single thing, saying that, okay, we are going to give a product and that's going to be lapped up by everybody. No, that's not going to happen. Like, India again has huge sets of very interesting things here for a simple reason. India cannot be actually looked at as one singular unit. India has to be looked at as 28 different units or different economic units. There are multiple reasons for it. Well, one of them is very, very simply put in the easiest of them all, and that is about culture. But then the second thing is that each one of them has a different reality in terms of like how the regulatory policy actually happens. So if you really look at business in India, India has to be disaggregated into 28 different regions, and then we actually have to talk about this country. Because what's going to actually sell in Bihar, it's not probably going to sell in, say, a place like Punjab. In fact, very interestingly, I'm sure like the folks in the cosmetic company would have actually read and known, and they would have actually experienced it. Fair and Lovely was probably being consumed more by men folk in Bihar and UP than anybody else. And why was that actually? That's a very interesting proposition that happens. And then suddenly, like, that kind of a product might not actually be selling so heavily within the what do you call the Punjabi community, or when you talk about Haryana and so on and so forth. So like each region thinks differently. Each region just changes, and we have to really look at that. So I think we need to actually look at our perspectives very, very clearly. We need to actually break our assumptions and see whether our assumptions are right or not. Our assumptions about environment, our assumptions about the context, our assumptions about customers, and so on and so forth. In fact, when I actually say like on these assumptions and the perspectives, the perspective thing is something very, very interesting here. If you really look at this perspective issue, our perspectives are itself something which are really going to tell us about like how we look at problems and how we look at opportunities. In fact, like for somebody, India is a problem, and for that same person, India is an opportunity. I think in 1991, when India actually started moving into a system wherein we were really talking about, okay, we are actually going to have liberalize and so on and so forth. Like a lot of people could have actually said that India is a huge problem. But no, that was not there. In fact, it was something which was happening in terms. Okay, so if you really look at something like the Indian context, there were huge sets of opportunities that were happening there. In fact, we could have actually said, okay, the problems that India actually has today, we have to actually look at the solutions for it, and that's where the opportunity lies. In fact, like somebody would say that India has hugely pathetic, sickening infrastructure. But do you think that's the right thing to really say? Because that's where the opportunity lies. Indian airports are absolutely bad. Perfect. But then you have players like GMR who have actually come into the sector and who've done wonders. India does not have a great airline system, but then you have players like Air Deccan who have actually created huge levels of business models around it. And that's something which is very, very powerful. So what I'm saying is, it's a question of perspectives here. I think strategy is more about perspective than anything else. In fact, every problem that we actually face, I think there is a hidden opportunity behind it. In fact, like I must ask you something very interesting here. I'll actually give you this small question or thing to do, or an exercise to do. I'm sure you must have actually done your 9-dot problem. You're supposed to connect these 9 dots in 4 or less than 4 lines. Could you just try it? And could you actually, I'm not too sure if you could actually give me the solution here. Yeah. So could you actually tell me how would you actually join these 9 dots in 1 line? Okay, let's make it much easier here. How many of you can join it in 1 line? And how would you do that? Now this is about perspectives, this is about assumptions, this is about how do you actually look at a problem. How do you actually join these 9 dots in one line? I need an answer here. Any one of you, please. Yeah. I'm just waiting for your answer somewhere. How do you join 9 dots in one or less than one, in one line? Yes, Rajiv. Oh, Rajiv, you're not audible. Sorry.
Yeah. Better audible now?
Yes, absolutely, Rajiv. Yeah.
Well, unless it's a very complex riddle, we just start from one end, go straight, right, down, left,
You're not
come to the middle, and this,
No, you have to actually do it in one line. That's like the moment you actually make a right angle turn or the moment you make a turn, that's the second line. So you have to join these...
one line, eh?
One line. So that's how you're supposed to do it. It's a very easy thing. Like it's just an out-of-the-box solution. It's about like looking at a thing from a very fresh perspective. The perfect answer is in one line, and you could have actually done it in about 2 or 3 different ways. So I can give you a hint there.
Tough for a chartered accountant to think in those terms.
You could give it a shot. You could give it a shot. Like, what do you think it's going to be? Okay, I'll let you think here. So let me talk to somebody else. So Siddharth is like now here is a person who teaches the kids around. So one line.
If I don't take turns, I just take a curved line.
Yeah.
Is curved line still counted as one line?
No, it's not going to be counted as.
Take a curved line and go along.
Okay.
All right, but still a line. So okay. So if I take a curved line, I can obviously join all the dots and just go in curves.
Okay. That's a fairly good solution, but but then you're actually one way would be that you join these lines, go around the earth, come back, and that's going to be one huge curve, right? But it's a suboptimal decision. It's not the optimal decision. You have to find a very good optimal decision here itself, you're able to do it very quickly. You're not supposed to go around the earth and then do it. So let's see. Like we have Suresh here from Bangalore. So let me see like what Suresh has to say on this. Yes, Suresh.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, absolutely, Suresh.
I will try to keep the book in front of the camera if you could see that.
Sure.
Can you see the 9 dots here?
No, not really. In fact, it's like
no? Okay. So, how I want to say is like there are 3 dots. So there are 3 dots at the right side if you take it as a vertical, and there are 3 dots on the left. Another vertical, and there are 3 dots in the middle. Okay. So you superimpose the right dots by folding the paper on the middle and the left on the middle, and you get all the 3 on the left and right merged in the central line, and try a line on that.
Great. Okay, that's one of the ways. Like, okay, I'll give you a very easy solution. Like what was the assumption that all of you are making here? I must ask you one simple question. There is a huge assumption that all of us have actually made. So let me talk to Amit on this and see like what he is going to tell us in terms of the assumption that we are actually making here. There's one big assumption that all 18 of us have actually, all 14 of us have actually made here. What is that assumption? What do you think, Amit?
Yes, Dr. Gaur. I was thinking something which is different from everyone.
Yeah.
Because everyone must have thought like, we'll just draw a line here and there. I thought like, why not, put this all scattered dots in a straight line and just draw it.
You're not supposed to do that actually. So, okay.
Very simple. Yeah.
Okay. That's an interesting.
Pretty simple. Something unique.
But you were not supposed to put it in the.
Something unique and pretty simple.
Okay.
Yeah. But I was impressed with the Suresh answer. Like
something logical or clever.
Okay, great. So, like, if you really look at it, like now, let's really look at the assumptions that are happening here. What's the assumption that we have made? Any one of you? What do you think is the assumption? So, Rajiv, what's the assumption that we are actually making here?
Well, yeah, one of the assumptions clearly all of us made was you can't, you like the paper is flat and therefore you can't do much with that, so you got to pick a line and do it. The other assumption you made is that these dots cannot be moved around.
Okay.
And so I think one is that the plane is fixed and therefore we can't change the plane that we are working. And the second is these objects are fixed and we can't change them. I think these are two standard assumptions that we probably all started with.
Okay. There's one more third big assumption, like, and I think that's the biggest one.
Line.
What about the size of the line? Okay, now, isn't there a solution? Did I ever say that I can't actually use a big pen? Did I even define what's the size of the pen that you're supposed to use? I did not even say or ask any one of you to say, like, you cannot actually use what do you call
brush
or a brush or something. You could just have actually just done something like this, and all these 9 dots are connected. They're on one single thing. I think so. If you really look, it's a very simplistic thing, but then it's a question of perspective. If I really talk about this perspective issue, what happens is, like, say, when we talk about this perspective, somebody's what do you call? Okay, now I actually give you another example here. There's something horrific happens on Indian roads every day, and that horrific thing is that each one of us would actually try to break the traffic rules and everything. So what's actually happening here? There is a huge perspective issue here, and when you talk about Bangalore, like Bangalore is even worse. Like, it's just like more and more people actually crunch onto, say, the roads and everything, and but then you're actually creating huge sets of problems. And when you talk about at the red light, people would actually just try to jump, or they would actually want to actually enter into a gate, and then all of you would actually come together. What's that actually happening? That's a question of perspective here, because the issue is like, okay, now I am the person who's actually in a hurry, and I would not really, wait for others to actually do. And this actually leads us to a very interesting strategic issue. And that strategic issue is that individual rationality leads to something called as collective irrationality. And that's a perspective thing. In fact, when I talk about individual rationality taking us to say something like collective irrationality, there is a very interesting Akbar and a Birbal story when they actually go to a village and they say, okay, now there are going to be people in the village who are actually going to donate one, glass of milk. And none of the guys in the village actually donate a glass of milk. For a simple reason, they're believing that the other guy would do it. Why should I actually waste my money? And then that's what takes you to is that individual rationality takes you to collective irrationality. And when you talk about these wrong perspectives, they take you to collectively wrong decisions. In fact, I think as an aggregate, we cannot actually do this mistake. We have to start thinking beyond. We have to actually break the assumptions that we actually have. We have to change the perspectives that we actually have. In fact, when you talk about this perspective thing itself, if you really talk about people across the board, we are all making same sets of assumptions, we are all looking at same sets of things, but then I think there are few companies who actually make it big. And there are few companies who rule the roost. Why? Because they've actually looked at the whole thing in a different perspective. And when we talk about this force, this is going to be all about it. Okay, moving to the next thing here. And when we actually talk about strategy, there is something like this, like setting the goals right. And what's the primary goal of a company? I think the reason for the creation of a company or an enterprise is actually about making money. If we are not making money, then I think there is no reason for existence. So the primary reason for existence is like profitability. And if I'm not really talking about profitability, that means, or if the company is not talking about it, there are going to be issues. And then of course, like there's something very interesting that is actually said here. That the only reliable test of value is superior long-term return on investment. I need to actually get consistent sets of returns from whatever I actually do. I'm not saying that you have to be unethical here and then get superior long-term returns on investments. But what I'm saying is in the perfect ethical way, you could actually look at opportunities. and you should actually look at returns somewhere. So when you talk about, there is another thing that happens here, like pleasing today's shareholders is not the goal. In fact, what happens is a lot of us would say that, okay, now there is something called as long term and there is something called as short term. I think strategy is about the long term. You do not have to do things which could actually give you huge sets of problems in the future. You could make your shareholders happy today. You could make your stakeholders happy today. But do you think that's actually going to take you somewhere in the long term? Do you think that's going to be a sustainable strategy in the long term? In fact, like I say, we actually would say that, okay, we could actually take some very funny sets of decisions in, say, the academic world or whatever, and or even in the, say, the retailing world. We say that we are going to go for, say, price competition, and we are going to reduce prices for all the products that we actually have. But do you think that could actually give you huge levels of market share to begin with? It could actually, say, increase your volumes. But do you think that's going to be a profitable strategy? So this is what we have to really look at, and that is how we have to really move ahead. In fact, so that's the first thing that we need to do, setting the goals right. But then what are the determinants of profitability? There are two things that we have to talk about from a strategy perspective. One is that how the whole industry is unfolding, how the whole industry is structured, what is the rule of competition, what is the basis for competition. In fact, when you really talk about this idea of strategy, there are two things that we need to understand. One of them is that I need to understand what are the rules of competition, what are the basis for competition. When I actually talk about the telecom industry, what's the basis for competition in the telecom industry? Is it price, is it network, or whatever? I need to fundamentally understand that. And that's going to be true for any industry. Understanding that. The second thing is going to be, what is my relative position within the industry? How do I actually do my things? How do I actually execute my strategy? Then that is what is going to give me competitive advantage. That is what is going to give me sustained long-term profitability. So there are two things that we are really talking about here, industry structure and relative position within the industry. And how do we actually look at this? There are going to be frameworks that we would actually use. Like, of course, for industry structure, we say there is something called as the 5 forces model. Trying to understand the bargaining power of my buyers, my suppliers, and so on and so forth. And of course, when we talk about relative position within the industry, is like how my whole value chain is actually going to unfold. And how am I actually going to stack up my activities? At the end of the day, business is about like how various sets of activities that I'm doing in business are really going to stack up. How they add up into creating something which is unique and worthwhile. So, if you really look at this, like one thing was determinants of long-term profitability, and this is the 5 forces model. And we would actually look at this in detail when we actually do a few sets of cases. So I'm not really going to look at it very deeply here. But when you talk about relative performance, this is where we talk about competitive advantage. Whether I'm actually going to be talking about costs, or I'm going to differentiate my product, or is it going to be something which is going to be differentiation plus cost, or is it going to be something like focus? I'll focus on a few set of customers, and so on and so forth. But then sources of competitive advantage is about understanding how various sets of activities in the value chain are actually stacked up. So these are a few things that I have to look at. Okay, now I have Suresh who has actually raised his hand. Yes, Suresh, do you have a question?
I'm sorry, how did it happen?
Oh, okay. Not
I didn't raise my hand. Yeah.
No, not a problem, Suresh. Okay. So when you talk about determinants of relative performance, I think when you talk about operational effectiveness, this is where we started. Like, there are two things when we talk about strategy. And one of them is like whether I'm going to be unique or whether I'm actually going to do the existing set of things in a better way. So like that is about operational effectiveness. I'm going to do the existing things in a better way. That's about benchmarking. That's about extending the best practice. I'm going to run the same race faster. I'm not going to do something which is it's going to be different. I'm going to be in the computer industry. I would enter that industry, but I would just manufacture computers and probably at a lower price. And how do I do that? I actually, make my processes better. That's one of the things that I actually do. Or the other thing is, I'm going to create a new sets of market somewhere. I'm going to go to my existing, I'm not going to talk about existing customers. I'm going to talk about the non-customers. Can I actually give a solution to them? When you talk about, say something like the telecom thing again, when we talk about telecom here, one way that Airtel could have actually looked at things was saying that, okay, I'm going to talk about existing sets of people who are actually using, telecom services. Or the other thing is like, who are the people who are not really using these services? Because the whole advent of telecom companies in India has actually happened by really capturing the non-customers, because they were not the set of people who were already using these services. And that's what strategy is all about. Can we actually talk about going to my non-customers? Can we actually say, okay, can we actually expand the market? Because when you really talk about market shares, that's again a very wrong way of really looking at things. From my perspective, strategy is not at any given point in time talking about market shares. Strategy is about going beyond this market share thing. Because when you talk about market share is a huge big assumption, and that is that this is the only size of the market. Market share battles or market share has to be looked at a point in time when markets are not expanding. This is a tool which has to be used in mature markets. But in a country like India, market share is a very wrong parameter to really look at. Because for a simple reason, market share is not going to tell me that, okay, whether the market is expanding or not. So we have to look at that itself. But then anyways, coming back to this idea of strategic positioning, it's about like creating a unique and sustainable positioning. Can I actually create something very unique in the minds of the customer? Can I actually create something which is absolutely wonderful? So if you really look at the next thing, so when you talk about operational effectiveness, like a lot of you actually, when we started talking in the evening, a lot of you said like, okay, I'm really talking, we are doing outsourcing, or we are really talking about re-engineering and so on and so forth. This is something like, these are tools which are actually talking about operational effectiveness. This is just about improving your existing best practices. These are how to do tools. Like, this is not about what to do tools. When you talk about how to do, what do you call things like improving product quality, rationalization of facilities, or benchmarking, or whatever, they're actually how to do tools. They're not what to do things. Because strategy is more about what to do, not how to do. Because if I know what to do, then how to do would actually happen. Where, in fact, if you really look at this idea of, like, say, when you talk about operational effectiveness, what do you think companies could actually do? They would say, okay, I'm actually going to improve my product quality, and so on and so forth. I'm going to upgrade my processes. I'm going to train more and more employees, and so on and so forth. But then, are we really talking about what's my productivity increase here? Am I actually talking about the right metrics? Or am I actually going to say rationalization of facilities? Of course, we can have better manufacturing processes. But is it something which is connected to the market? If it is not something which is connected to the market, then actually it's not really going to give you the set of returns that we are really looking at. So we have to go beyond this idea of operational effectiveness. We have to go beyond the idea of like, what is my existing productivity frontier? If I'm able to do that, then that means like, okay, strategy is something which is going to be exciting. But then what are the characteristics of a sound strategy? It has to have a unique value proposition to competitors, compared to competitors. How am I actually going to be different from competitors? It has to have a different tailored value chain, or what you call a supply chain at lots of points in time. Can I actually have clear trade-offs? I make choices. Strategy at the end of the day is about choices. In fact, what is it that I'm going to do and what is it that I'm not going to do? In fact, if you really look at this idea of choices, companies like, say, well, what is the difference between Kingfisher and, say, Air Deccan? The difference is very simple. Like, they made different sets of choices on what are their customers going to be. One of them says that it's going to be a high-end customer for me, like the premium end of the market for Kingfisher, and then you actually talk about bottom of the pyramid guy called Air Deccan. Of course, now it is Kingfisher Red, but when you talk about, say, Air Deccan, it was about, okay, now this is the huge market base that I'm really talking about. And so there was a few sets of choices that you have to make. And once you actually make the choice, then the whole company gets created around that choice itself. You create your value chain, you create your activities in certain fashion that in fact says that, okay, everything is actually going to be like a hub and a spoke system. And then of course, when you talk about strategy, there's something very important here, and it has to be about continuity. You cannot say that I'm going to make strategy today and I'm actually going to change it tomorrow. I'm going to have one single principle today and I'm going to change that principle tomorrow. I think when you talk about strategy has to be a long-term thing. You're there in it for the long haul. It's not going to be that I'm actually going to be just going to do it today. I'm going to have a different set of ideas tomorrow, so I'm going to do that tomorrow. No, strategy is about like the long haul. It's about like 10-year, 20-year time frames. It's not going to be something like which is going to happen. I'm going to keep on changing my views every second day. And of course, like, so this is where it is. defining the value proposition, and how do we do that? What are my customers? Who are my customers? And what are the needs that I'm actually really talking about? What's the relative price at which we are actually going to take care of? When you talk about what are my customers, like, I think, I do not know how many of you actually came in my introductory session on, or there was a session on turbulent times. Like, how many of you did attend that session? I actually gave something, a very interesting framework during that time. Did any one of you actually come to the session that I actually did on managing in turbulent times? Okay. Since I don't have a response here, but what I'll assume is, even if you've attended, for the sake, even if it is duplicating, I would like to actually give you a very quick round of thing on what the framework that I would like to share here. It's something very important for us to really see from a strategic viewpoint in terms of like how we could actually look at customers and how do we actually look at value proposition. But very quickly, we have Rajiv here. So yes, Rajiv.
Professor did attend the session. I think what I remember and very well was the lifts and hips over there. So the low involvement products and the high involvement products.
Okay.
But to be honest, and I'm just going to be very honest, I don't recall the framework.
Okay.
But since you asked, and that's when I toggled the button and I said yes, I did attend that.
Okay.
Session, but I think just a lot of time has passed by. Yeah.
Not a problem. Like, in fact, if you really look at it, like, what I really wanted to say is that how do we actually look at this, defining this value proposition? What is this value thing that we are really talking about? What is this animal called value? In fact, like, every business says that, okay, I'm going to provide better value to my customers. But then at the end of the day, what does value mean for me? And what does value mean for a company? There's something very interesting here. In one simple thing, value is benefits minus costs. And that's a very simple framework that needs to be actually looked at. Am I actually giving benefits to the customer which are greater than the costs that are there? In fact, like, when you talk about strategy is always about increasing these benefits and reducing these costs. And then increasing the benefit could also mean that, okay, when you talk about value, if I continue to reduce my cost, of course, the value is actually getting higher for the customers. In fact, when you talk about the Chinese products, what's the Chinese competition all about? Chinese competition is about like giving the same sets of benefits at lower and lower costs. And that is where things actually change. So like, you suddenly have a different kind of a value curve altogether. You have a different value proposition for customers. But now this actually takes us to a very interesting question here when we talk about value. There is something given on the slide here called needs. But then before we actually move ahead, I have a question from all of you. Can needs be created or not? In fact, all of you actually come from a marketing viewpoint or marketing domain. But then I must ask you a question. Do you think needs can actually be created or not? Do you think needs can be created? Okay, let me actually... Yes. Anybody? Do you think needs can be created? Okay, they can be generated. Yes, Amit.
Yes, Dr. Kapoor. What I mean is, if customers do not have needs, then we have to create those needs actually. And in your earlier session, I very well noticed that many of the companies, they actually use marketing strategies for targeting the emotions of the customers. They basically target the emotions. So basically, they create the needs and they then destroy them.
Oh, okay. Okay. Let me actually talk to somebody else and see what he has to say yes. We have Anup from Gurgaon. Yes, Anup. Could you just tell me, like, do you think needs can be created or not?
Absolutely, Doctor. Example or one instance that comes to my mind is what my about is the need for individual customers as well as institutional customers for, let's say, a product like antivirus systems. So I had heard of a very systematic approach taken by certain companies to actually create the need for certain companies and individuals to go for antivirus systems by adopting various strategies. So that I could think of, because ideally when probably it all started out, antivirus was not such a big industry, but I believe, and this is what is more of a hearsay for me, was that there were a lot of strategies adopted to make an effective antivirus system a need of the hour for many companies. Similarly, in the technology world, there could be many such examples. Probably closer to my requirements would be the technologies that I use on a daily basis could be like mobile technology. With advancement in technologies and marketing coupled with affordable access to that technology, I think a lot of things like mobile and Bluetooth and all of them have become more of a need than a luxury today. So I believe those are good examples in my understanding of how needs were created.
Okay, I'll probably have a different point of view here, but then let me just seek a few answers from others as well. Siddharth, yes, what's your point of view on this?
Well, just adding to what any new industry that came up was something that was not known to all of us, that was innovated, like the internet or like mobile phones. That was something, a need was created by offering a new innovation, offering a new product. So, yes, need can be created with innovation and then, like making the customers of the masses realize, the consumer realize that by giving them a benefit, which is something that they never perceive, and giving them an additional benefit out of which the need is created.
Okay, I'll probably disagree with you on that. I'll actually come to I'll negate that point somewhere. But let me see like what Anupama has to say. Like Anupama, what's your point of view on this?
Yeah, recently Tata has launched Nano.
Okay.
And the auto drivers are also looking at taking nanos now. So a need is got created among the auto drivers, so they would like to switch over from auto to nano. So I guess a need is got created here. That's a recent example that I think of.
Okay. So let me see what Meena has to say here. Yes, Meena. What's your point of view on this?
Yeah, Professor, sometimes needs can be created out of certain circumstances, like for instance due to the acute power shortage in India. I mean the sale of inverters and generators and backups, and this kind of need is created.
Okay.
So that is one perspective, one thing of looking at it. An alternative, to augment and to correct the any shortcomings that are there.
Fair. I'll get back to you on this. Yes, Suresh, what's your point of view?
It was a take from what the previous friend mentioned, that from the concept point of view, I know there are many examples that can be quoted. I think need gets created as an alternative for a product or a feature or a service, which gives probably sometimes the more benefit than the actual product or a service. So from the value chain perspective, if there is any gap, be it any vertical, take a telecom or pharma or whatever, in the entire value chain, if there are any gaps which does not link two activities, that's when there is a opportunity or a need. And if that does not meet the expectations of the customer, and there is always an alternative need, alternative opportunity that gets created, and that can be seen as a need in the competition, more from the concept point of view.
Okay, I'll get back to you on this. Like all of you are actually saying that need can be created. Okay, let me just talk to one more person. Let me see what Rajiv has to say here, and then I'll actually make a few comments on this.
Yeah, my take is different, and just maybe adding a little philosophical touch. I think needs exist. So, just taking my colleague's point of view on internet is, see, information was a need always. I guess technology, innovators, etc., work on needs and then come up with new services or new ways of addressing those needs, which then create huge industries or markets, etc. So at a fundamental level, needs exist. But the way we service those needs, or, I can't articulate it much better, but fundamentally basic needs exist. And, but the way we service them, what products we can build around them, and I would even say the same thing about customers. Customers exist, but which customers we can serve and how.
Beautiful.
On outsourcing, the need for cost reduction exists, but whether China is the answer or India or going forward US, God knows. But so that way.
Okay, now this is something very interesting. So now we have a very interesting debate going on here. We have a set of people who feel that need can actually be created, and now we have Rajiv, who says that needs always pre-exist. In fact, I'll just to take the debate to the next level. If you really look at needs, there are two kinds of needs that are there. One is called as biogenic needs, and there are something called as psychogenic needs. Biogenic needs are like something like my bodily needs for food and everything, and then of course psychogenic are something which are in my head, which are more psychology driven. So two sets of or two kinds of needs, biogenic and psychogenic. But now the question here again, like. Can they be created or not? So we have two different points of view. Rajiv says that no, they pre-exist, and there are a lot of other people who feel that needs are something which can be created. So let me see what Siddharth has to say on this. Yes, Siddharth.
Give an example, like automobiles, they are basically for the need of transportation, but a new need has been created, that need of status symbol by the luxury cars, which again maybe could be a pre-existing need in sense of that people need a sense of identity, which is probably a pre-existing need, but maybe that we can also say that was created by the automobile industry, by the luxury cars. So, just an example.
Okay. Let me see somebody else. Okay, Siddharth from Gurgaon. Yes, Siddharth, what's your point of view on this?
My query is that there are basically needs, after which needs which have been culminated into wants and finally lead to the desires. So needs are the basic requirements which are being existing or latent inside a human being or somebody who desires it, who will further culminate into the desire. But right now we are saying there are two types of needs. One is the biogenic and another one is the
psychogenic.
As you have stated right now.
Yeah, psychogenic.
Hydrogen.
Psychogenic.
Psychogenic.
Yeah.
Psychogenic. Psychogenic needs are?
Something which are in your mind. Psychologically driven.
That also comes in. That also is a part of our biological biogenic or routine.
No.
What
like,
is the difference between biogenic?
Okay, when you talk about biogenic needs, it will be about what do you call food, my desire to go to the loo. Yes, so that's biogenic. And when you talk about psychogenic, it's about more to do with branding and the great brands that could actually happen. Massaging my ego. So more ego-driven kind of things. Yeah, so like that's a very simple way of really looking at it. So, what is your point on this?
This is a part of my behavior or the basically requirements besides my general requirements.
Exactly.
Basic requirements.
Yes. Yes, Siddharth. Anything that you would like to share here?
Thank you, sir.
Oh, okay. So let's see. We have Sandeep from Bangalore. Yes, Sandeep. What's your point of view?
I think that needs can be created mainly by tapping the comfort zone of a person. For example, okay, I need to travel from one place to another, but I may not need to travel always by AC. But if I can, if it can be created that AC travel is best, then over a period of time, whatever product was introduced as a luxury product becomes a need. This is the same thing with what happened with cars. Initially, cars were a luxury product, something which was not needed, but something which was good to have. But over a period of time, the way marketing has happened and the way distances have reduced, it has become more of a need. So needs can be created, but it also depends on how complementary products evolve during that period of time.
Okay, very interesting, Sandeep. But then I think I'll use your logic itself. I'll probably disagree with a lot of you and say that needs are something which always pre-exist. When you talk about biogenic needs or psychogenic needs, the question is, how do I actually give a solution to that need? Something like what Rajiv was saying. Needs always pre-exist. What I can actually create is something like demand for my products. I can never create needs. In fact, say when you talk about need to travel always existed. You were actually either going on foot, or you actually looked at a bullock cart, or you actually said you are going to have cars, then you actually wanted to travel faster or whatever. You had ships, you have planes. But at the end of the day, need to travel always existed. What we did was we actually started giving better solutions. And those better solutions were coming across to you with the change in technology, or with the change in we were actually ending up becoming a little more capable in terms of like really solving those problems. So when you talk about needs, like needs are about understanding the problems of people and how we can actually solve them. So needs always pre-exist. It's just a question of like people are probably not aware of it. We might actually make them aware of that whole thing or like the need that they actually have. We create that awareness. We actually bring it at the top of their mind. But we're never in a position to say that we can create needs. Needs always pre-exist. They need to communicate. Need to communicate always existed. People wanted to actually say talk to their families, be in touch with their families. So when you talk about talking to their families or being in touch, you had the system of say letters. And then after that there was something else that actually happened. And you had the internet, you had telecom and so on and so forth. And there were different sets of solutions that were actually coming in. And as solutions become better, there are the previous sets of solutions could actually get negated over a period of time. So something that has actually happened in this world is something very, very powerful. The idea of post or posting my letters, that used to actually happen about 15 years back or even say 20 years back, and suddenly that has changed. There's a newer solution that has happened. You have internet, you have telephone and so on and so forth. So, but what has happened is like the need to communicate always existed, but the solutions that are actually there now are different. Either they've actually become different because of technology, the technology is improved, people are actually wanting things which are a little faster and so on and so forth. But the needs always pre-exist. So when I actually want to say, look smarter, or there is a person who wants to look much more attractive, the need always actually exists. In fact, the question is, how do I actually fulfill that need? How do I, or what are the kind of solutions that can be provided? When you actually talk about selling a lipstick, what is it? What is the business of lipstick? What is it that I'm actually trying to do here? In fact, like there are 2 or 3 people who actually come from the FMCG industry, or they actually come from the cosmetics industry. We should ask them, like, why do you think women wear lipsticks? And this is actually going to give us a very interesting idea to like whether we actually sell products or services, or whether we are actually going to be in, or we can actually create needs. This actually takes us to a very interesting debate. Why do you think women wear lipsticks? Let me ask somebody, okay, let me ask Purna here. Why do you think women wear lipsticks?
To look gorgeous.
Okay, to look gorgeous. Something else?
Trendy.
Trendy. Okay, to look gorgeous, to look trendy. That's interesting. And then let me talk to some men folk here. And Amit, what do you think? Why do you think women wear lipsticks?
Actually, some of them, they really want to look good, and some of them follow each other. That's what I would think.
You're talking like a typical Punjabi, yaar.
Some of them follow, and some of them really they want to look good.
You sure about that? So, like, what do you mean by looking good?
Yeah,
why do they want to look good, actually?
Even men want to look good. That's
But then, okay,
it's about attracting. It's about attracting the other guys.
Oh, so you feel that all the women who wear lipsticks are trying to attract you?
No, not all of them, but as I said, like some of them and others follow.
Oh, okay. Let's see. So we have Suresh here from Bangalore. So let me understand from Suresh. Well, what's his point of view? Why do you think women wear lipsticks?
I mean, it's from the word itself. Lipstick means they stick to what they say. So I think people who stick to what they say would definitely kind of wear lipstick.
Okay.
Sorry, it was just on the lighter side.
Fair enough. So, but then, okay, now let's try to understand. Why do you think women wear lipsticks?
See, one thing is if talking from the biogenic and psychogenic, I think the positioning is how a person or an individual would like to position herself in a given social scenario. So the other aspects of attractiveness, etc., all those are in place, but there is something that they would like to draw the attention of, and they could also use it as a way of communication, a tool for communication. So from the need
Can I ask a
perspective,
question here?
They would like to communicate and they want to get.
You said it's a tool for communication, right?
No, as a kind of means of, the attractiveness will kind of, draw them to communicate their thoughts and expressions.
Okay, very.
One of the means of attraction.
So let's see. We have some buddy from Chennai. So Murali, Pat. Yes. So Pat, what's your take on this?
I am not able to crack my brain behind this, but I guess it's more to do with feeling, maybe to feel just good about it. And the natural instinct says that when one talks, they need to get more of a confidence. I guess it's more to do with the confidence building.
Yes.
And as it comes with something to do with beauty, I guess it's a good combination. I guess it's more from that point of view.
Okay, so it's about confidence, it's about beauty, and great. So that sounds interesting. Let's see. So Murali from Chennai. So Murali, what's your point of view on this?
I think it's a psychogenic need, as you put it across. It is more social acceptance is what they look at, and social acceptance varies by degrees. Now, if it's a plain simple being present and being accepted, being attractive so that people give you a second look, and then the upper need is now you look gorgeous and people start saying a wow on you. I think the levels of needs vary.
Okay. Great.
But the broad thing is that social acceptance is why they actually wear lipstick. But I guess in some parts of the country during the winter the lipstick usage increases, which is in the northern part. Largely to cover up the sharp lips, they kind of use this to camouflage as well.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, so this is a very, very interesting point of view from Murali. But then let me see what Rajiv has to say, and this will be the last point on this. So Rajiv, yes, what's your take on this?
Yeah, I don't know, never read the history of lipstick, but was it because when grown-up men started having mustaches, was it that the grown-up women decided, what are we going to wear? And did lipstick evolve like that? So I don't know, but it's clearly a psychogenic need to enhance features, to look better.
Okay. So now,
and to attract, yeah.
Okay. I think Siddharth just wanted to pitch in with an idea on this. So Siddharth, what's your take on this?
Psychogenic need. Makeup is essentially to look good. So seek approval, be appreciated, and if I talk about lipstick in particular, lipstick is probably to enhance the lips, enhance the color of the lips, which is gives a sense of good health, which is probably where the idea of lipstick evolved.
Okay, so now you know, like, there's something very interesting here. So like, if you really look at the complete discussion that we are having here, why do you think women wear lipsticks? Most of the points that we actually heard was they wanted to look good, they wanted to look attractive. Probably it was a thing that it could actually save their lips in winter. So like, what is happening here is, like, it's a complete solution for something. One, like, the need existed to actually look good. There is no doubt about it. There was nothing that got created here. So it was just about, like, it's a different solution that actually happened. It's actually, so this leads us to a very interesting debate, like whether we are actually selling a product or a service. Nobody in this world actually sells a product or a service. They actually sell solutions for problems that men have or women have. So we are all trying to sell solutions to people. So, and this is something very important from a strategic viewpoint as well. So when you talk about lipstick is a solution to make a woman feel better, to make her feel attractive, to make her feel good, to actually take care of her lips or whatever. But then there is a complete solution that has actually happened. So when you talk about cosmetics is not about just like a red colored thing or whatever. It's a solution for looking attractive, to look beautiful, to give you confidence. And similarly, when you actually talk about, say, cigarettes, what is it that we are really talking about in cigarettes? Like, why people smoke? Is it that it's probably a solution for something else? It's probably a solution for looking macho. So that's what it is. So if you really look at it, there is nothing like a new need that got created here. But then there was something very interesting that happened here, and that was that it was about giving a solution for something that you have. And it was not about products and services. It was going beyond products and services. It's about solutions. So from a strategic viewpoint, and this is one of the key takeaways on here, and that is that we are not in the business of selling products or services. We are in the business of selling solutions. Or we are actually in the business of giving solutions to the problems that people have. The moment that we actually start having these, fundamental idea of understanding it's a solution, we can actually start looking at very interesting sets of things. In fact, when you talk about NIIT Imperia itself as a platform, what do you think we are actually doing on this platform? Why do you think NIIT actually wants to deliver it on air? Or it's going to be a system wherein, like, people are spread out across the country. So this is something which is very, very interesting here. In fact, it's a solution for people who are actually busy, who are actually spread across the country, who want to actually learn something which is very specific to their requirements and so on and so forth. But then there is a solution that has actually happened here. So it's not about a product or a service. It's a solution that has been given to you, which has the tangibles and the intangibles around it. Of course, there is a tangible part to it because there is going to be a touch and feel to it. Intangible because there are going to be some things which are psychological and so on and so forth, and we cannot actually touch and feel on that. But then it's actually a complete solution that has actually happened here. Yes, Purna, you have a comment to make.
Can you quote an example for creating a need, or we can have only solutions for the need?
Again, the first fundamental thing that I said, Purna, was that you cannot create needs. Needs always pre-exist. Biogenic or psychogenic, needs always pre-exist. What we do is we actually give solutions for it. Yes, and when you talk about solutions, like, it's something, what happens is, like, any product, we cannot say it's a product or a service because there is nothing like a pure play product or a pure play service. It's always because each product is going to have some kind of an intangible around it, or each service is going to have some kind of a tangible around it. So that means on that continuum, there has to be something else. It's about a solution that we are actually providing. So companies provide solutions to the needs that always pre-exist. And those solutions are actually going to be provided through various sets of technological leaps that could actually happen, or newer ways of really solving those issues. Sure. So, in fact, we have Murali from Chennai, and let's see. Yes, Murali.
Yeah, I just want to give a perspective. You were saying, it can't be true. The needs always exist. It can't be created. Just to add a point here, the need is basically, one is obvious, the other things are latent. Now, I think a lot of us would get confused with latent needs being appreciated by marketers in different fashions as creating needs. They aren't. Now, a need to drink a colored drink would not have been as obvious as a need to drink water. So, for somebody to drink the water, it's there. But somebody has to identify that, yes, there is a segment of people who need to drink colored sweetened water, Probably that's how a syrup got converted into Coca-Cola back in the 1800s. So I think needs are always existing. Some of them we will see them, some of them we cannot identify easily. We need to research, we need to find out whether it exists in what proportions, magnitude, what investments required to go in and magnify and earn profit. Hope this adds to some clarity there.
Exceptional. Something very interesting. I think I absolutely agree with Murali on this, and it's about like understanding those latent needs that we have and how do we actually fulfill them. So like quickly moving ahead on this, if you really look at the next thing, in fact, okay, this is where I would like to actually I would like to close the session today. In fact, I really don't want to make it very heavy. Just a couple of points on this. So if you really look at it, there are 2 or 3 things that I actually said. One was that when you talk about strategy, we have to understand it's about looking at something like perspectives and assumptions. We have to say that, okay, we have to look at things from a fresher perspective. We have to actually break down the assumptions that we have, and we have to question the assumptions that we actually have. That's one thing. And the second thing that we said is, okay, like what is value? Value is benefits minus costs, and we have to continuously create or give value to our customers. The second thing, one more thing that we actually discussed was, or a key point that we actually looked at, was that it is not about, we cannot create needs. Needs always pre-exist. We actually give solutions for it. So these are a few key points that I really wanted to bring home today. But then before I actually break, I wanted to tell you a few more things about this course and set the ball rolling here. In terms of, say, when you talk about a couple of things that we have to do here. So that's where I'm going to move out. So I'm going to take about 5-10 minutes on that. One thing that we have to do is that I would want you to do a project. I told you in the beginning, but like today is the first session. What I would like you to do is that go back home and probably write down a small proposal of about 1 page of about 300 to 500 words in terms of the project that you're actually wanting to do, or what's one problem that you would like to take along for the next 3 months when we are doing this course, and use those principles so that we are actually able to use those principles in the class itself. We could share those views. So I would want you to actually look at those and send me a 1-page proposal. Say if you're able to do it by tomorrow evening, and then I'll be able to go through it, and then we can actually discuss those together. One more thing that I would want to do here is that I would actually create a Twitter account on this, and we should be in a position to interact with each other, and we should be able to share some thoughts with each other. I think we have to work as a very interactive group so that we are able to learn from each other and build up the whole momentum. So that's one more thing I would want you to do. So I hope all of you are going to be comfortable with the idea of sending me a 1-page note on the project that you're actually looking at doing. The second thing would be in terms of what do you call sharing it with all of you. In fact, what I'll do is I'll actually create some kind of an account somewhere wherein we are able to work together. So that's going to be my responsibility. But I hope all of you are going to be okay with sending me a 1-page proposal on the project, what you're looking at doing, and we should build it up together. It could be a consultative thing. In fact, I look at this whole thing as an idea in terms of like, can we actually work together? And probably it's a consulting thing, kind of a thing, wherein we are saying, okay, let's find solution together. Let's this group of 15, 16 people come together and find solutions to the challenges that we actually face in business, to the challenges that we face at our workplace as of today. And we should find some unique solutions somewhere. I hope all of you are going to be good. I'll just pick up a few people and see like what they feel about it. So Suresh, would you be okay with this?
Yeah, I think it's a great idea, Professor. I think it's one of the main expectations what I mentioned at the beginning of this program, as to take a project and work through that and share the solutions and see how it works from a non-domain perspective. Like a problem can be looked totally different from a non-domain perspective person, and totally a new solutions can emerge. I think it's a very interesting.
Great. So what we'll do is all of you, in fact, I told you my email ID, so I would expect something from you by close of day tomorrow. And then we would start interacting on it. So please send it across by email to me at amit@amitkapoor.com. and let's what do you call get this out, and let's start building something together on this. So I hope all of you are going to be doing this. Amit, what's your take on this? I hope you'll be in a position to send it across.
Yeah, I'll be sending it across, and certainly it's a very nice idea. If you compare with the project to, as in comparison to that, this is a very nice step. And certainly, we have got to learn from different domains what sort of strategy or what sort of steps other guys take actually to go ahead and build up the project. And certainly, if someone knows better in his own domain, then we will probably know what sort of strategies we can implement in our.
So let's do this. Let's take this ahead. So we have Rajiv who would actually wanted to say something. Yes, Rajiv.
Yeah, to think project, definitely a great idea. We all need this, but we, I think, need a lot of your counseling in terms of ensuring that our projects are around certain strategic domains or strategic like you said, or we discussed today, that uniqueness is what we need to pursue, or innovation is what we need to pursue. So I hope with your counsel, each one of our projects and our thoughts around our projects can get more chiseled to why don't we pursue them in this way, or why don't we try and answer some strategic questions around. That is one. The second, which not sure if I should address to you, but or the NII team that's plugged in. In terms of hygiene, I don't know, was everybody informed of this session? And are there some are there some things that we are missing? Are we going to get some pre-reads? I mean, is that don't know much, because I actually was never informed about this, and I just called up the center because time's coming. So I came in. So
okay, I'll answer both these questions for you, Rajiv. In fact, I absolutely appreciate what you're saying in terms of the project that we need to pursue. That is why I said, like, if you're able to send me a note by tomorrow evening, then I would actually be able to work with you for the next 3-4 days. I'll be able to send across my opinions on that or my points of view on that, so that we are able to go back and forth and get the right project in for all of you. Because I want that strategic perspective to happen. I want that, okay, now this should be a project which I have a very interesting point of view on projects. That any kind of a project that we do, it should become publishable in some form or the other. At least we should be in a position to write an article in the newspaper, or we should be in a position to write a case out of it, or we are able to publish a report out of it. So that's my huge intention, that all of you should actually end up becoming authors in some way or the other, at least in the public domain. And that's going to be a huge intention here. So, and I would really work with you on these projects. So like I'm going to give time to this. And so if you send it across to me by tomorrow, yes, we'll have it. In terms of the material, yes, the material has been given to NIIT. In the next, I think, 48 hours, you'll actually get close to about 1,500 pages that you're supposed to read in the next 3 months. So they're coming on your way. So if you would have asked for something more, we could have actually given you more material. So, I hope we are watching you, Rajiv. Like I can see the frustration on your face of about 1,500 pages. So that's how it is actually going to be. Sure. So that's how it is. Okay. Now I had a suggestion from Siddharth. I think I just lost that. Siddharth, could you actually just get back to me on this again? You'd said something. So. Siddharth, could you just click only once?
Books on competitive strategy or business strategy can also be provided, sir.
Yeah, in fact,
like an operational strategy which we are reading it out right now.
You're actually.
So it will be helpful for us because along with the case study, we go on some theoretical aspects also, so that it will delve into bigger hand or something on a
Siddharth, all of that,
idea,
great. Like Siddharth, all of that is coming your way. I'm giving you close to about 15 best-in-class articles on strategy, which come as part of the material. You're going to get about close to 20-25 cases, which comes as part of the material. So in fact, all of you actually get material which is in fact worth about $400 actually. So that's how it is. So all of you actually get a huge set of material to actually read in this course. So all of you are actually going to get this. And then we have a
So how strategies can be transformed into our concurrent businesses?
Of course, we are going to work on that.
It can become a fruitful. For that, transformational strategies or something like that, it can become a meaningful. We can get some good writers' books.
Of course, like I'll keep on suggesting some books to you. In fact, I've just...
I can refer in my office to, can have it on those.
In fact, I've just finished authoring a book on strategy, so I'll probably, once it actually gets into the market, you'll actually get it as part of the material. But that's going to be about a couple of months away. But then I think I would share a lot of other material off and on with you on strategy, which is going to be part of the course material. I would actually suggest a lot of books to you as we actually move ahead, depending on the topic and so on and so forth. Because if you really look at the whole thing in terms of like really saying some or suggesting a few texts, I think we have to go beyond that. We have to actually suggest a few great reads, because you could always pick up one text and then go through it. So I want that you should actually read the best in class, and so we are able to say, okay, we are able to get a level which is something which is exceptional at the international level. So that is how it is going to be. We have one question from how do we get access to the presentations that we share in the class? There are going to be a few presentations that I would actually share and a few presentations which I wouldn't. Say for today's presentation, that's not going to be shared with you. But then I have a few points I'll actually write and I would actually send it across to you. But then you can always look at the recordings that are going to be available with the centers and so on and so forth. Something which Okay, there is a facility called LMS within IIT which you can actually access and look at all the material that is going to be there. I'll keep on sending you a few presentations which we will not probably use in the class, but I think which is going to be great material for you to really access and read in your free time. So that's what is going to be and things. And of course, like we have Siddharth from Lucknow. Yes, Siddharth, do you have something to share?
Yeah. I just had a suggestion that I've already mailed to you that if you explore Google sites where you can upload documents and Google Documents as well for the community that you were proposing. Like everyone can connect to the Gmail account, just as a suggestion.
Of course, like I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that, so you'll get loads of material from my site. So once I actually have your email IDs, once I receive the first set of emails from you, I'll actually just create a group and we'll continuously be in touch together. We will actually build up the whole thing together. That's what it is going to be. I have Siddharth from Gurgaon. Yes, Siddharth.
Available right now.
Excuse me?
Through email. These slides which are available right now, sir. These can be sent through email.
I do not know. I'm so sorry about this technology thing. I think it's going to be the folks here who know more about technology, so no comment, but I'll certainly send you something by close of day tomorrow. So which is going to be we'll make it a lot easier that way. So by tomorrow you'll get something.
If I have any query or problems, I will directly contact you through email.
Sure, not a problem. Yes, Rajiv, couple of two or three quick points, and then we'll just move for closure of the session. Yes, Rajiv, you had to say something?
No specific question. Would have loved to get the presentation, but I think you're the best judge of what needs to be shared and how.
No, like okay, there are some
pages.
No, there are a few things on the presentation that I actually use. There are some copyright materials that I have and things, and they are bound by my copyright obligations that I have with the Institute for Strategy and Competitiveness at the Harvard Business School. So there would be few slides which I can share with you, few things that I cannot share with you. But whatever I'm in a position to share, I'll actually give it across to you. So don't worry about it. So that's how it is going to be. Yes, Meena.
That we'll be sending it to you tomorrow.
Yeah.
Is there any specific format? It could be just a free-flowing text and having some business problem, and then how we are going to.
Just give me a free flow kind of a thing, about 300 words. What's the problem that you have? What are the project that you would like to do? That is from where I'll actually take it forward. Then we'll actually get into a typical framework and things. Okay, just a last few points on this. In fact, from next session onwards, we are actually going to step on towards the idea of cases. So I would want that all of us actually spend a lot of time doing the cases, and we need to actually follow a certain format of really analyzing the cases. In fact, very quickly I'll tell you there are 5 steps, or in fact I would say 4 to 5 steps that we have in terms of how do we actually look at cases. So I think you need to actually look at this framework and then start looking at reading your cases, so that we are actually going to have some very interesting discussions. So the first one is what you call as situation analysis. When you actually go through the case, in fact, if you really look at it, each of the cases is going to be about close to 20 pages each. So what you need to do is there are going to be things like the text, which is going to be about 8 to 12 pages, and there are going to be exhibits in the case. So I would want that all of you actually go through both of them. It's very, very important for successful discussion. So go through all this material. I think it's very important. So the first thing is going to be situation analysis. Then of course, the second thing is like, what is the problem in the case that we are really talking about? So the thing is problem identification. Once we've identified the problem, the third step of really a case analysis is going to be something like what are the choices that we have. Once I know the problem, then I have to really go to the solutions. So what are the choices that we have? And then of course, when we talk about multiple choices that we could have, we need to actually evaluate these choices. So we are going to actually say parameters for evaluation of choices. And of course, there is going to be a fifth one that we actually talk about, and that's going to be the dominant solution. So all of you should actually go through this process of what you call as case analysis. It is very important for us to actually follow this pattern to really have a very successful learning experience. So go through these 5 steps of one, situation analysis, problem identification, choices, parameters for evaluation, and dominant solution. So we follow this. Your material is on its way, which is going to be given to you in the next 48 hours. I think packets are going to be given to you and things like that. I'm going to make sure that all those packets come to you in the next 48 hours to maximum by Wednesday afternoon, so that we are able to actually take things forward very, very well on Sunday. One more point here, that we are going to have some very interesting speakers in this program beyond me. In fact, we are going to have a couple of very interesting guys who have already confirmed. One of them is going to be Christopher Doyle. Christopher is CEO of Economist. I know like every one of you reads The Economist, so he's actually the CEO of the Economist group, who's actually agreed to take a session with you. In fact, that's going to be somewhere in September. We have a guy called Rahul Sen, who's actually agreed to be with us for a day. Rahul is actually, he owns an advertising company and things. We're one of the most famous guys in the country. In fact, you might actually even know him. He's son of Shunu Sen, who used to be the advertising guru in this country at one point in time. So he's actually going to come and talk about differentiation and those issues. So we have some very interesting sets of speakers who are going to be lined up for you during this course. And my only request would be that when an external speaker is coming, we need to all be very well prepared, because they're going to be doing these cases with you, and they're going to take the discussion forward and things. So we're going to have some very interesting people coming and sharing with you, sharing their views with you. Sure. So this is what it is. If you have any suggestions on how do we improve the sessions, how do we actually take it forward and things, please send in your suggestions to me, and we will start building up the whole momentum. I must also forewarn you on one thing, that as we actually move ahead, requirements are actually going to rise a little more, and it's going to get a little more, I'll be getting a little more tougher on you on things and on expectations as well. So great. So thanks for being here for the day today, and thanks for dropping in. And I'm sure we are going to have a great learning together in this course. So good luck with the course. Enjoy yourself and have a great week. Thank you.